Hey, Third Command. My name is Sporty King. And on Saturday, January 27th, I was one of the speakers at the Yellow Ribbon event in Phoenix, Arizona. And someone asked, did I have a video that I could share about the presentation that I did? And I didn't have one. And then that someone pursued and said, well, is there a way we can get it so that I can show it to my fellow soldiers? And that is what we're going to do right now. So this has been created for you, and we'll talk about that in a second. So let's restart. Let's get the sharing going. All right. First of all, yes, I know your middle name. Yes, I know your nickname. So what's going on, Desert Medics? I got you. What's going on? It's so good to meet you. And look, this is going to be somewhat interaction on your part. I'm not there to see you do these things, but I'm going to ask you some questions, and you can look around the room and see if there's anything going on in the room. Find out some things about your battle buddies and see what's going on. So first, let's start out by taking attendance, okay? Let's find out who's here. By a show of hands, how many uncles in the house? How many uncles? Show of hands. Yeah. Yeah, I always start out with uncles because I have 33 nieces and nephews. And it's so cool, right? Because when I do these presentations live, everybody, there's kind of like a rumble in the room when I say I got 33 nieces and nephews. I don't know if you had that while I'm not there, but guess what? I say, don't be impressed. I didn't put in the work, right? It's Uncle Sporty, okay? So I didn't put in the work to get those nieces and nephews, but I got a good 33 of them. And here's a partial sample in them. This is back in 2009. And what I like to point out on this slide is see those three in the front? They were the youngest, and there's one right next to me with the he's being held. He's now in his freshman year in high school. These two middle ones and the smallest ones there in their junior and senior year in high school. This one is now she's a college senior. This one, he's a college graduate from last year. So those were the youngest back then. And just to see the wonderful changes, my nieces and nephews need a good uncle. So that's why. So no, even though I didn't put in the work to get them here, I put in the work now. So thank you, uncles. We got to make sure our nieces and nephews get good uncles. What about aunts? We got aunts in the house. Show of hands. All right, aunts. A is for aunts. Start at the beginning. Thank you, aunts. Can't have uncles and aunts if we don't have parents. How many parents in the room? Okay, show of hands, parents in the room. Thank you. Tough job. Hey, by the way, have y'all seen the new parenting handbook? The excellent, perfect parent, right? Oh, God, the 2024 version, 40 pages, all blank. Turn it over, go the opposite way, and you'll see the perfect child, 40 pages, all blank. Why? Because there are no rules. There's no one size fits all for parenting or for being children. So thank you, parents. Thank you for whoever your parent was and however you got here. And thank you for growing up and being a child, and you're still somebody's child. So it's just a wonderful thing to know that so many obstacles have been overcome and parenting and growing up as children. Because don't you know somebody who didn't make it, or they had a tough childhood? Maybe you did, but that's not what this session is all about. So let's move on. But God bless you, and keep that that thought in mind, because speaking about how you grew up, how many of you grew up as the oldest child? Show of hands, oldest child. Okay, look around the room at your oldest child. These are the experiments, right? Yeah, you're the experiments. The parents say, "Ooh, those look good. Let's have one." Yeah, maybe you look like me. Maybe you look like you. Maybe you look like Gramps. Okay, yeah. See, so you were the experiments, and your parents, made it through, and they got you. Great to know it. What about the middle child? Not if you, even if you have an odd number in your family, but you're not first, not last, so you're in the middle. You're a middle. Okay, good. Show of hands. We got it. Cool in the gang. I can't see you, but I grew up a middle child too. And see, we're the balance. That's what you got to recognize, middle kids. Yeah, look at your power. We're the balance. Okay, cool in the gang. That's what we got to do. What about the spoiled? What about the youngest? How many of you grew up as the youngest child in your family? All right. And yeah, you know what? Yeah, you are spoiled brats. All right, but that's okay. You got away with the things us middle kids and the oldest ones didn't get away with. But you helped us see how much more patient and compassionate our parents could be in some cases. So thank you for that power, youngest child, smallest brat. Cool in the game. Hey, last category. And one time I had a soldier in the back, oh, nobody ever says anything about the only children. I said, well, that's because you only don't wait for me to click the clicker and bring you in. I got you covered, only child. How many of you grew up as the only child? Thank you. God bless you all. Hey, look, here's the key. Here's why I take the attendance. Whatever category you put yourself in, I'm an uncle, single, no kids, grew up as an only child. That's the lens through which I look at the world. See, let me take the weight off your shoulder. What this attendance does is let you know that we will never have 100% compliance because everyone's looking at the world through a different set of lenses. And so I won't look at it the same as an aunt who is married, 3 kids, and grew up as the youngest child. See, I won't look at the world the same way. And when you look at it that way, you recognize that no matter how much you think you have in common as you looked around the room or how much you think you don't have in common with anybody, the truth is none of you will experience this deployment the same. And if this is not your first deployment, you will not experience it the same as your previous deployments. And you actually know that you haven't experienced this the same as someone else. So take that weight off your shoulders. You don't have to have the same experience that your battle buddies have. Please let your not your parents, let your parents know, but also let your families know to not compare themselves to another person's family about how they're doing with the deployment, because what it is a separation. And see, that's the key, is you have to recognize everybody cannot handle the separation the same. In fact, even with these lenses that I'm talking about, as I have grown up, I actually had to move from being the middle child to the oldest because my older brother died. And so I became the oldest, and now I'm the patriarch of my immediate family. That changes how I look at life. Even again, those of you who it's not your first deployment, look at it in a different way for the first time, because depending on how your life situation has evolved, the information that you've heard over and over again now sounds differently. So let's go to the information that we had on that Saturday in Arizona. The session was called Experiencing Deployment. I like to also really call it Experiencing Life, because see, deployment is not who you are, it's what you do. Life is really what you're all about. Life, L-I-F-E, lessons intended for everyone. What lesson will you get from this deployment? And more importantly, what lesson will you get from this new aspect of your life? Because that's really all it is. It's just another step, another phase in your life. What will it be? Well, I decided to take poetic license, and I changed the name of the session from Experiencing Deployment to How to Get an F in Deployment. You see, I think that the letter F gets a bad rap. And I want to remind people that this is who asked me to share this with you, was First Sergeant Koch. And I want to thank him because I appreciate how he received the message and how important he thought it was to let his battle buddies receive the message as well. Sometimes we lose track of how important it is to share, even though we think we do a great deal of sharing. But I'm doing too many commercials, and let me get rolling with you, okay? But here's the key. Because I think the letter F gets a bad rap, I've actually made all of my lefts positive. And I've made them stand for focus, faith, fun, friends, and freedom. You see, part of turning negatives into positives is controlling your vocabulary rather than allowing your vocabulary to control you. And we all know and understand that words are powerful, W-O-R-D-S. When your words are positive, it becomes what others remember and digest, strengthens spirits. You look great. I'm so proud of you. I wish you the best. You make a difference. Positive output, positive input, positive results. But when your words are negative, WORDS becomes what others remember, destroy spirits. You look terrible. I can't stand you. I hope you fail. You'll never amount to anything. I wish you were never born. We've heard words like those. Those are quotes. But it's negative output, negative input, negative results. What are your words doing? Are they boosting people up or knocking them down? Well, to help you figure that out, I'm going to give you an F for the day. And I'll thank you for your service by letting you know that you all deserve an F. And I've already told you what the 5 are: focus, faith, fun, friends, and freedom. But what I want you to do is, as I go through them, I want you to think about 2 or 3 reasons, just especially the first 3: focus, faith, and fun. Right now, think of why you need to be focused, why you need to have faith, why you need to have fun during this deployment, during this new phase of your life. Have those things in mind as we go through. Because see, when I do the session live, it's a lot more interactive and we get comments from the audience. Since I'm not there with you, maybe you'll decide to stop the tape, the video, and throw out some of those suggestions and then move on. But you've got options. And so that's one, I just dropped that one into the toolbox, okay? But the first F is focus. Focus, Focus. Why do you need to be focused? Does anybody have an idea of why being focused is important? And let me tell you, focus is Focus. Finding ourselves creates unlimited success. Think about all the comments that you made that had to do with focus, or even those that you thought of, and recognize how they equate to this. So you've got to focus on you and let other people come into focus. Everyone, individually, I want you to put yourself first. Not your spouse, not your children, not your parents. I need you to put yourself first, because you can't help anyone until you help yourself. And this is a tough one too, and that is, you can't help anyone who doesn't want your help. The pronoun you'll consistently hear throughout each session and from every resource table, and by the way, this was at the event, and the message, that pronoun is you. You have to do this. You should do this. Have you thought about this? Have you looked at your benefits? And the message is that when you do your job, your unit and your family unit will succeed. So this blends over to your families as well. They have to each put themselves first so that they can contribute to the success of the deployment, that it has to work for everybody. It won't necessarily be easy, and it may have a few more ups than downs, but you'll find out something new about yourself. What will it be, and how will you use it? You see, when you do your job, you soldiers, your unit will succeed. And you have an idea of who your weakest and strongest links are, and you'll make the adjustments, because sometimes the links will fool you and things will still work out. Sometimes the person you thought would be the strong link turns out to be the weak link, and someone you thought would be the weak link turns out to be the strong link. And that will change your judgment of people. So I implore you to focus on setting your goals in increments. Recognize that your family will grow and get stronger because you will. And that message is not just to you, soldiers. Your family needs to see the same. Say it to them. Our family will grow and get stronger because you will, each individual member of your family. And let me ask you this question. Will any of you, and just think about it, will any of you multiple deployers have different circumstances this time around? See, maybe this time you're married, or maybe you're going to you're single now. Maybe you have had a child. Maybe your child has grown into being a teenager, like when I was showing you my nieces and nephews. You're going to miss different special occasions. You're going to miss different deaths in the family. You're going to miss different births in the family. See, but any of these will change the way you receive the same information that you've heard over and over again. And my message is to parents is that it's important that they monitor their sons and daughters, because sometimes the outside look at our relationships can be helpful, providing we are having a relationship. And with that monitoring, you have to remember that you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth before commenting. You see, how often have we made the wrong assumption about somebody else's actions when all we can really do is make the right assessment about our own? For instance, wait, let me see if I can hide this thing. Hide video panel. Okay, it didn't happen. Y'all don't know what I'm doing. Oh, there we go. Cool. All right, because I don't know if that was blocking the letters. But anyway, I gave this session of the 5 Fs years ago when I first started at the Yellow Ribbon. And I had printed out some cards and I gave each table, we had like 300 airmen, and I gave each table an F. So they either had focus, faith, fun, friends, or freedom. And I gave them 10 minutes, and their assignment was to come up with reasons why their F was important. So as I was walking around the room, I came up to a table and looked down, and the airman had written fart. Well, everybody at the table kind of froze. It was like one of those, ooh, teachers, look what she did moments, right? And I'd also bet that there was someone wondering, okay, now what you going to do, Mr. Positivity? Now that she has not been paying attention and she wrote down fart, what are you going to do? And so I just looked and I shook my head. I said, fart, huh? Yeah. Oh, and I just smiled. I said, FART, fully able to retract our thoughts. And then I said something real cool, like what you see on your slide right now. It's so important in our lives to realize that we don't have to say everything that comes to mind because so many of our thoughts can be judgmental. If we just hold on to that thought another moment or two, we often find out that the situation is not what it seems. Now, I don't know if those were the exact words, but that was what I came up with in the moment for fully able to retract our thoughts. Look, remember that the number one communication skill is listening. And I call it listening to the paragraph, not the sentence. Allow people to finish what they're saying before you judge the content of what they're saying. But here's the blessing. As it turned out, that airman had been brought back from her deployment after only 5 months in Afghanistan because her fiance, stateside, took his life by suicide. The meeting planner caught up with me and told me after the session, and she thanked me for engaging the airman, saying that that was the most responsive she'd been since coming back. The blessing gets better. As it turned out, the airman's last name was actually Farkins. And Fart was her nickname in her unit. You see, she was totally engaged in the exercise. She was on the focus table. Finding ourselves creates unlimited success. Focus on you and let others come into focus. She was totally focused on who she was and thinking about who she was to her family, her airman family at the table and in the unit. So if I had decided, as sometimes parents, teachers, and leaders sometimes want to do, that this airman wasn't paying attention, I would have been wrong. And I would have taken her blessing away by not allowing her to heal at her own pace. So again, think about it. How often have we made the wrong assumption about someone else's actions when all we can really do is make the right assessment about our own? Focus on you and let other people come into focus. Each of you has to recognize that you take care of all your loved ones when you take care of yourself, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Now you're going to have access to these forms. They were at yellowribbon.mil. This is the actual handout that goes with the session. I didn't hand it out at the session because I want it to be homework. I want you to make the extra step of investment in your family, but it's just an option for you if you want something else in your toolbox. This handout actually comes in 3 segments. You see pre-deployment on your left, and then during deployment on your right, and then there's also a post-deployment that goes with it as well. And there are 3 columns on each handout. The first column, these are some things that could be going on in your family right now. So pre-deployment, you may have some denial and anticipation of the loss. There may be some communication challenges. You have ups and downs. You might feel that the reality of the change ahead is starting to sink in on your family members. So it's so important to recognize that some of these things may be going on. And what you can do is you can say, oh, wow, yeah, this is happening in my family. I thought thought it was me and I thought I had a problem. And no, maybe you don't. These are quote unquote normal things that could be going on. So think about some of the reactions that people are having in your families to the deployment. And then that second column is some of the feelings people may be having. Pride, excitement, even anger, resentment. Yeah, you should still have some anger, resentment, some fear, some excitement. Look, no emotion is wrong. They just exist. So as your family members are going through these different feelings, what you want to do is recognize them and acknowledge them, and then find a way to embrace them, because column 3 is where you want to get coping strategies. What are you going to do about the fact that you're feeling in denial and you're feeling a little restlessness? How are you going to cope? Those of you who deployed before, what are some coping strategies you used before that maybe you can tell first timers? First timers, what are some things that you've learned? Maybe you've heard from, you have a relative who deployed before. And so maybe you have some ideas. You got to share them. You got to share them. So what's going on right now? Coping strategies. And then once the deployment hits, that's that one on the right. Again, there'll be some things that could be going on, because when the separation hits, especially first timers and especially our families at home, they're going to have some depression. There's going to be a small bit of, don't live in denial. Don't act like it's, oh, I got this, no problem. That separation is going to hit somebody at some time. And if it hits you, don't feel again like there's something quote unquote wrong with you. Recognize, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, these things, yeah, because looking under during deployment, I don't know if you can see it, but they may have a difficult time concentrating. The family, you might have to recognize that the family is getting more resilient. Children take cues from the parents and the adults. See, these are all things that are going on in your families. And these are some feelings, and they're going on in your life as well. Relief, restlessness, confusion, indecisive. So a lot of things are going on in your life right now. And that's pre and during. And then again, at yellowribbon.mil, you'll have access to post. But your homework is column 3. What are you doing to cope with those feelings, or any that you add to it? And you can use some of these, by the way, on your Zoom calls. You can just say, let's pick one and talk about it. You're going to run out of things to talk about on your Zoom calls. So these could be some things that you can do, okay? So just take your time. But you get one of these, if you like, print it out for your family. And now you know how to use them. But you've got to trust that you can use them and that all is going to be well. So trust yourself, okay? So that's all about focus. The next F is faith. Take a breath. Why do you need to have faith on this phase in your life? Well, it's because faith is F-A-I-T-H, feeling as if there's hope. Recognizing that the only thing you cannot do is what you have not done, and that is give up. And you haven't given up. Whether you base it on religion or coincidence or confidence, you're going to make it. And some of you have made it before. Give yourself a pat on the back and celebrate each step. For instance, you'll have to make adjustments. You're going to have to learn patience, trust people that you didn't know that you can trust, including yourself. That's why you've got to have faith. You can't give in to situations. You have to try to come up with solutions. Spouses will now have to deal with having the faith of being the duo head of the household, with the confident ups and downs that come along with that. Parents, and these are things going on with your family back home. Their child, maybe you, will grow up, and your conversation with your parents will have to evolve. Children, yours and you as a child, gain a new sense of responsibility and respect for adulthood. And service members, especially again, if it's your first time, but even if it's not, you're still going to have the faith to adjust to new surroundings. Even if it's not your first deployment, you've experienced a lot of firsts. Okay, first day of enlistment, first day of boot camp, first day of getting mail, first day of being told you were coming home, first day being told you were coming home, first day told you were coming home. Okay, there's a lot of firsts, and your families have felt all of the firsts right there along with you. So you'll all have to learn to be more patient and to trust more. Give yourself and your children credit, especially those of you with younger children. Remember that not all school systems are equipped for handling military children. And because our military kids mature quicker than their civilian compatriots. In fact, I always like to tell the story of the fourth grade teacher who's talking to her class about mammals. And she said, though the whale is the largest mammal on the face of the earth, his throat is actually so small it can't swallow a human being. Well, Susie, the military kid, raised her hand and said, oh, that's not true, teacher. A whale can swallow a human being. The teacher shakes her head and under her breath says, oh my goodness, these military kids, they're so outspoken. But I can't let this kid take over my class. She said, look, Susie, thanks for participating. But the fact of the matter is, a whale cannot swallow a human being. And Susie said, well, a whale swallowed Jonah. Classmates laughed. And then the teacher said under her breath, oh my God, good answer. They're creative too. But I can't let this kid take over my class. Listen to her classmates laughing at me. She said, look, Susie, I'm glad you're participating because everyone learns with a different style. And I'm sure some of your classmates are gaining something from your questions and comments. But the fact of the matter is, a whale is the largest mammal on the face of the earth. Its throat is actually so small it can't swallow a human being. And there's no actual proof that a whale did swallow Jonah. Class got quiet. But Susie didn't get quiet. Susie said, well, I guess I'll just have to ask Jonah when he gets to heaven. Class started to crack up laughing again. Hey, go Susie, right? And the teacher's like, oh my God, I have to shut this kid down hard. So the teacher said, yeah, Susie, what if Jonah went to hell? Class got quiet again, but Susie didn't even blink. Susie said, well, then you ask him. I hope I'm giving y'all a chance to laugh. You ask him, yeah. But the joke begs the question, what conversation are you having with Susie? See, maybe when you leave, she's Susie. But when you come back, she'll be Suzanne, right? Because everybody changes and most get stronger during the deployment. And so can your kids, so can your little brothers and sisters, so will your family members. So be conscious of the conversation you're having. If you have school-age children, please don't be the parent that leaves the other parent to say in the morning, oh, your mother or father left last night. Don't leave in the middle of the night. The goodbye is important, regardless of the children's age. You have to say the goodbye. Don't leave it up to that parent to say that you left. Sneaking out while they're asleep is not helpful. Okay, those of you who've deployed it before, maybe you can comment on this. But technically, please don't do that. Don't leave that burden on your spouse or your child's parent. Meanwhile, parents who are staying home, I always encourage them to not refrain from letting the child see them shed a tear or know that they're having a tough time and missing the other parent. So I would say tell your if maybe your parents taking care of your kids or your partner, your spouse, whichever it is, and you just let them know they don't have to only show strength. They need to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not doing so good without your dad today. Wow, I'm having a tough time without your mom being home. Kids are going to say one of two things. First of all, children mimic and mirror adults. And this is going to be an opportunity for them to do some role reversal. So when you say you're having a tough time, a kid is most likely going to say what you see that kid on the screen saying, hey, it's going to be all right. Might not be tonight, tomorrow, the next day. Everything is going to be all right. And where did the kid get that from? They got it from you. Remember those lenses that we were talking about? This is why we gave the parents the pat on the back, because you've been teaching your kid that they can make it through tough times. And now here's a chance for them to say to you, hey, we're going to be all right. Or they may even say to you, wow, me too. I'm having a tough time too. And their little shoulders might fall down. Even if they're teenagers, they don't have little shoulders, but their shoulders will shrink because they've been carrying that pressure too. Because as the parent who stayed home, you've only been showing strength. If you only show strength, you only teach strength. And sometimes you making a kid think, well, I can't let them know that I'm having a tough time because then they'll be they'll be disappointed and it won't be helpful. Children mimic and mirror adults. They will be watching you so that they can take They're tips from you. So let your child's parents, or if it's your parents who's going to be the guardian of your child while they're going, let them know that they can let the child know that things are going tough for them. And I'm not saying that they should schedule crying on 4 o'clock on Wednesdays. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying, remember what I said earlier? No emotion is wrong. And if they're having a tough time, you want to tell them that. See, we talk about kids today. We say, oh, these kids of today have no emotions, but then we don't teach them how to exercise their emotions. You've got to let kids know that it's not just about being tough or weak. They've got to know how to exercise their emotions and know that it's going to be okay, and that they can talk to you, the older one, the elder, whoever, the caregiver. If they think they can't talk to you, what are they going to do? They're going to talk to some of their friends, and then this is where you got to be careful of the media, because it's going to say that, they're going to start taking drugs, they're going to start drinking, and that doesn't, sometimes that's true, but it doesn't have to be the typical route to go. Okay. So again, make sure that you're having that conversation with your child, and let the child know that it's okay for them to have that conversation with you. Now, I mentioned, and this goes with upgrading your positive vocabulary. That includes watching out for the cliches we use, because as we focus on communicating, we say a lot of stuff. Okay, but do we hear or understand what we say? Beware, not aware. Oh, yeah, but be aware, but also beware of words and cliches that have us reciting, yet not adhering to what we believe. Hopefully, some of you know this one. Finish this sentence for me. When one door closes, now I know a few of you probably shouted out, another will open. And that's fine. That's a popular cliche. But here's the Sporty King remix. When one door closes, go for the windows. Go for the windows, because there are usually more windows than there are doors. And that means we get clearer choices, because life is consistently about putting ourselves in position to make good choices. And you've made a lot of good choices, but we tend to only focus on the bad choices we made. Look at your track record for what you've done well, not always for what you've done wrong. And I call that trusting your track record. Trust that you've been through some stuff before, and you're going to go through this again. You're going to get through some new stuff. So when one door closes, go for the window. See what options you have. Communication requires really thinking about what you're saying or going to say. And you got a lot to think about. So don't get frustrated. See the calling on your life. For instance, when I asked one group to finish that cliche, one service member, he shouted out, when one door closes, it locks. And isn't that true? You see, life is not dress rehearsal. You have to take care of the moments and your resources. We have to expect success. And in order to recognize it when it comes, we have to be looking for it. So look for the success in your deployment and your upcoming life missions. If you focus on not liking your circumstances, you won't be able to recognize your successes. I'll never forget an Air Force chaplain state that the real moral behind the stories of the three little pigs is not that the storm is coming. I'm sorry, it's not what type of a house you build. I blew oh gosh, what do you call it? Spoiler alert, right? It's the real moral behind the story of the three little pigs is not what type of a house you build, but it's about the fact that the storm is coming. And when that storm ends, another will come. And we'll be ready for that one too. So just as people use TGIF, thank God it's Friday, I like to use TGIT. Thank God it's today. And then TGIT, thank God it's tonight. Because to be able to wake up, go through a whole day, and have a chance to go to sleep and do it again, we have to give thanks and trust that we're going to make it through another storm. You see, each of you is an important piece of this collective puzzle. And you're either a small, medium, or large piece in all of your family, social, or business relationships. Yet, no matter what puzzle piece size you see yourself as, And no matter how big the puzzle is, without you, that puzzle is incomplete. And your mission is not over until you complete this full process and the next piece in the puzzle. So that's why our next F is fun. F-U-N. Why do you have to have fun during the separation? Well, it's because friends understand needs. Remember and believe that you are not alone and you can't do it alone. Use your mental toughness and be consistent about who you are. You're here to add to your life and multiply the blessings, not subtract and diminish your joy. But just remember that you need to have a range of friends. And friends don't have to be perfect. They have to be perfect for us. I hope you've got a friend that can make you laugh till you almost pee. But it's not about just making the jokes, because I tell people I laugh and joke, but I don't play. We've got to have the right people around us as our friends. And to do that, you have to know how to be a friend. So I've got FRIENDS, and I exposed this one because fun, real, interesting, easy, new, and decent. These are just some characteristics of friendship. And if you've got these characteristics, then you have the right to look for them. You're going to have to look for friends, soldiers, your battle buddies. You're going to look who you're going to be hanging out with on this deployment. So your families are going to have to look at friends that they're going to rely on, but you're going to have to rely on somebody as well. So fun, you got to make sure you take care of one another's real. You're going to have to revamp your circles, your friendship circles, due to your new commitment and your mental toughness. Yeah, you're going to lose some friends when you come back from the deployment. Why? Because you have a new sense of dedication and commitment, especially those who in the past, if you've ever been deployed to a war zone, or if you end up going to on a deployment where there's some kind of strife and struggle, when you come home now, suddenly you're going to lose some of your drinking buddies. You're going to lose some of your soap opera pals because you have a new sense of commitment. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of them, but right now you may outgrow them. You might have outgrown them anyway, but the deployment can speed that process up. But don't hate them, because a lot of times what happens is people, like your family members, someone says, oh yeah, I got your back when he or she is gone, and then they don't come through. Well, what happens is they still have life going on. They thought they could help, but they found out they couldn't. You see, you have to recognize, not only do I say thank you for your service, I say thank you for answering the call. There's a high calling on your life as a military family. America asks you to turn your emotions on and off at the drop of an order, and you do it. But do you stop to give yourself credit? We should connect that one to the faith F. Have you stopped and given yourself a pat on the back? This is not easy what you do. So don't decide that, I just did what I had to do. Bulletin, not everybody can do it. So give yourself credit for answering the call. And your preference will be in your friendships is to look for the quality friendships more important than the quantity of friends. You need to have that right quality. See, and then the I in friendships is interesting friends. You know, you have to, haven't you released some stereotypes since you enlisted? Because sometimes that's one of the beauties of the military. You meet people who you've never met someone from this part of the country. You never met this ethnicity. You never met someone this age. So that is actually one of the blessings that you may have had during the deployment, not during deployment, during your enlistment. Have you noticed it? And because the key is what? Is that you have respect and protect with your battle buddies. Doesn't matter where they came from. That becomes the key. The E is for easy. We're still back to talking about the qualities in friendship. Easy. You're not a square and a square and a round peg. Friendship should be easy, and you may outgrow your friends, but they'll often unintentionally try to force you to prove that you're still one of them by challenging your loyalty. So don't do it. While you're away, the friends that you're with, the friends that are back home, don't let them challenge your loyalty to being who you are. The N is for new friends. Continue to develop relationships. You want to have friends of different age, gender, ethnicity, and professions. You see, when we learn to communicate with all kinds of people, we move to a higher plane. If you can only speak to people at your level, you will be at a disadvantage during a job interview, asking for a raise or a promotion, assisting customers, getting directions when you're lost, protecting or representing a sick or injured loved one, furthering your education, trusting, sharing, care. You get it? You have to have new relationships. What characteristics do you have that you have the right to look for? In my early days in the Yellow Ribbons, I had a soldier in Montana shout out, "Friends drink with each other." So I said, "Oh, you mean burp?" So just like I did with fart, right? I said, "Oh, you mean burp? Building unity, resiliency, and pride?" And then we all just cracked up. But that's what you have to do. And what does that say? When you work hard, you get to play hard, and it's okay. So yeah, friends drink with one another, but we do everything in moderation. And let your family know this message as well. And then the D in friends is for define. Are your friends meeting the definition, the new definition of your life? That will also impact who you bring into your friendship circle. And then I didn't say, but I said friends, but the S is for self. You have to be safe, but you have to be your friend. You see, if you don't like yourself, you don't have love to give. I think liking is the cherry on the cake. And that's why I call it self-esteem, love's foundation. You have to like yourself. No one ever says, "Oh, I don't love me." But haven't you ever said, "I don't like how I look in this outfit. I don't like how I just acted. I don't like what I did." See, we've told our spirits that we didn't like ourselves, but we don't tell our spirits that we don't love who we are. And you won't have love to give if you don't like yourself. Here's some positive self-talk. Thank you. You have to thank yourself. I love you. Tell yourself that. I forgive you. And that's huge. We have to forgive ourselves. It's not important whether or not someone else can forgive us. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not important. It is important, but it's not as important as us forgiving ourselves, because we hold that regret of what we did and we keep beating ourselves down. So we also have to say to ourselves, I believe in you. And more importantly, I am you. And then listen to yourself. Trust your instincts and find someone to share with. You may say, "Well, I don't have anybody I can share, deep emotions with or that kind of thing." Well, maybe you don't have anybody right now, but maybe in an hour you will. Maybe in a day, maybe in a week. During the deployment, you'll meet somebody that you can share with. That is so important. And again, we're not talking about sitting down and crying out your heart. Sharing could just mean you're sharing the space, or a good joke, or when things are tough. Hey, I'm having a tough time. Somebody will pick you up. And sometimes you may not even have to say it. You may just be able to get that from the conversation. So make sure that you listen to yourself, trust your instincts and your feelings, and know that you do have someone that you can share with. So next to last F is free. FREE. Why do you have to have free? I say freedom, but I just like to talk about free. And see, for me, freedom is facts, risks, empathy, and excellence. The F is for facts. Missions are tactical based on facts. And so is life. So don't make major life decisions based on emotions. You need the facts. Nobody gets paid for what they think. You get paid for what you know. You need the facts. And risk is an acronym within itself. Recognition is success's key. When you decide to be you, you have to believe what you're doing is for the higher good and that you're worth the risk. Haven't some of you even had when you were ready to enlist, where maybe a parent or a friend or a spouse or partner say, "Oh, no, I don't want you to do that." You risk. When you decide to be who you are, you take a risk that somebody doesn't want you to do that. And sometimes it's because they're afraid for themselves, not so much for you. So take the risk on yourself. There's a high calling on your life. America asks you to do what? Turn your emotions on and off at the drop of an order. And you do it. It's not easy being you. So imagine trying to be someone else. Take the risk of being yourself. It's worth it. And empathy, one thing I never say is that I know what you're going through, because I've never been in your shoes. But I can tell you that I sit in your row. I've never been in your shoes. I don't know what you're going through, but I sit in your row because I've been through something and we're all going through something. And sometimes I may say that I don't think I can take another thing on my plate. You ever had someone say, oh, I can't take another thing on my plate? Then an hour later, we hide our situation and reassure a friend with, oh, God wouldn't give you more than you could handle. Hey, which one is it going to be? Can't take another thing, or God wouldn't give you more than you can handle. You have to make that choice in empathy. And what I always like to say is, hey, you know what? God wouldn't give me more than I can handle because I have switched from a plate to a platter so that I can have more room to deal with my challenges. And then the final E is excellence, because I don't believe that there's perfection. One of the cliches people say, practice makes perfect. But I think that practice makes purpose, and that excellence is a more realistic and attainable goal than perfection. My goal is to always to be better than I was last time. Yet, even as a speaker, I understand that you can't be positive 364, 24/7. But I'm up more than I'm down. I'm positive more than I'm negative, and I'm going forward more than I'm going backwards. And there's nothing wrong with every now and then just stepping back and taking a look at your work and building up your faith by trusting your track record. Commit to excellence and decide that you can handle the pressure. Free yourself by following guidelines, not boundaries. Everyone will experience the deployment in a different way. And each of us starts a new day with a blank screen. So each day, you also start out by having conversations with yourself. Think of that positive self-talk. But here's what you can also say. I've got a good support network. I've got the courage to ask for help. I know there is someone that I can trust. And let every conversation add up to a blessing because you deserve it. Finish. This is my final F. And it actually is a message that was not an acronym till a couple of weeks ago when I was in South Carolina. And these soldiers came up with finding inspiration, nourishment, and insight starts here. You see, here is in the now. You've got to start making this thing happen for you now. And what I always add is don't start anything that you don't intend to finish. Set realistic goals. Don't do this deployment in 9 months. Do it in 9 minutes. Then do it in 9 days. Then do it in 9 weeks. Then do it in 10 weeks. Then do it 11 days. You have to do it in realistic increments so that you can finish it and handle it. And recognize that it's your future and you're your present. You ever notice we never make it to the future? Every time we get there, it's the present. So the reason I give you an F is because you've earned an A. You've got the right attitude. You're continuing to make the adjustments to get yourself through, and you're allowing yourself to grow. Now, I want you to make sure that you take that attitude, take those adjustments, and allow yourself to grow and be around for years. I want to thank you, First Sergeant Koch, for asking me to share and serve y'all, because there's a high calling on your life as military families. I may have said this before. America asks you to turn your emotions on and off at the drop of an order, and you do it. But have you ever stopped to give yourself credit? I know I absolutely do. Thank you for answering the call. And there's my QR code. If you want to keep in touch on any social media or any way of contact me, just go on and take that picture and find out how you can reach me. Once again, thank you. God bless you. And I'll see you soon. Well, who knows? Somebody will. Over and out. Ciao. So again, let me see if I can stop this thing from sharing. And oh, I've made the thing invisible, and so I can't. Ah, there I am. Okay. All right. So hey, once again, thanks, First Sergeant Koch, and thank all of you. God bless you. Thank you for answering the call. Peace.